we are joined by a very special guest in the inaugural. We are joined by Sri Manoj Mishra, Secretary, Electronics and Information Technology Department, Government of Odisha, very senior policymaker who is heading the IT department in Odisha. Let's hear from him on his vision on cloud for governance and also the cybersecurity aspects and what kind of initiatives are being taken in the state of Odisha. We welcome Sri Manoj Mishra. Over to you.
Ji, for having me on the platform in the first place, and I congratulate APAC, the entire network, and your team to do this APAC summit on securing India on cloud and having me on the inaugural day. Thank you so much. I welcome all the audience who are listening to all of us today. The summit is for 2 days. I request that many of you can spread the word so that many more can take advantage of this summit and hear about different practices around the country and around the world. So coming back to the topic about cloud in governance and what a state like Odisha is doing, let me begin from 2019. 2019 is when the government, this present government, came into being on its 5th term under Honorable CM Sri Naveen Patnaik ji. And the first declaration that Honorable CM had was that he did not want any citizen to come to government offices unless it was constitutionally mandated. So there's a very simple sentence to have been told by the leader, but it's a very complex goal that was set for us. So what we needed to do was not only the e-governance that has been going on for the last decade and a half, almost in every state, but also go beyond. So we needed to come out with a end-to-end approach and a comprehensive approach of providing government services at the fingertips of people. Now, fingertips of the people meaning it is online, yes, but it's not necessarily online for all. Not everybody is in the same space and same platform to be able to avail online services. So we had to create different models. So we had a hybrid model where we created more Seva Kendras at the Gram Panchayats, where the services turned into digital, yet it was served at the doorsteps of people, very near to the doorsteps of the people, through manual mode. So a hybrid model was also thought about. While doing this, why I am taking this example of the reimagination of government services was that when we started doing end-to-end automation, we saw what kind of data we are dealing with. Specifically, I'll take one example. We started one initiative called Mo Sarkar. That was a randomized feedback taking mechanism by the government, where starting at the very top from the Honorable CM himself to the lower administration, who were to make a number of calls directly to the beneficiaries randomly without knowing who they are speaking to, and then get a feedback about how the service has been. Now, in a year, a little more than a year, we have a data set covering about 2.2 crore citizens. Now, if this is about one scheme that I am talking about, imagine that we have automated almost about 430 schemes. The kind of data that the government is generating today is mind-boggling. And when we are talking about data of that complexity and that sensitivity, because we are talking here not only of any anonymous data, but about citizen data. So we had to think in terms of where do you store it? And storing is not solving the problem. Storing is part of the solving of the problem. How do you process it? So there comes the role of cloud. I think cloud is one technology which has enabled governments across, not only the government, I think the private sector as well, to remain agile. And during and post the pandemic, we are seeing with more and more digitization, more and more faceless and online activities and transactions, the only way to scale up and to meet the requirement of people was to fall back on a technology like cloud. Now we have cloud providers. We have big players in India currently. So starting from a small company to a MSME to a large company, largely deal with cloud computing. At the same time, the governments have also thought similarly. In Odisha, we have a data center which we enabled cloud in the data center ourselves. To make a joke about cloud computing, somebody asked me, "What exactly is cloud?" It's not as if it is in the stratosphere of the sky. It is somebody else's server. It's true. It is somebody else's server, but then you don't have to maintain it. But governments being that large as a consumer themselves, we have our own setup, but we needed to adapt to cloud technology and cloud computing. And once we enabled cloud computing, we didn't have to transport data physically. So things happened automatically from far off distances like Nabrangpur, Malkangiri to Bhadrak to Sambalpur, and the state could churn out and process the data in the state data center, which had a layer of cloud over it. Now, cloud is obvious that it is the only way to go forward, because we currently nationally also we are coming out with a data policy, which I think is currently under the study of the Parliament. And once the data policy is announced and is passed, then it will enable that all data that is created in the country will have to be housed in the country, or at least processed in the country. Now that we know that content is king, and while going through the pandemic, we have seen how our consumption of entertainment, instead of decreasing, has in fact increased thanks to platforms like Netflix or Amazon or Sony Live, so on and so forth. So all this content that is being created will get stored in India. So more and more data centers will come, more and more cloud computing will start, and this is the sunrise industry in the IT ESDM sector itself. So I believe this virtual summit that APAC is doing is very timely, and we all understand how important it is to adapt to cloud, otherwise we'll perish. While part of the question I have answered about why cloud and what Government of Odisha is doing, the second part is actually more critical in nature. That is, what happens to security when we are talking about moving into cloud from our own storages. But how I see it is not much of a difference. I see it exactly the same how it was before, how it will be when it becomes on cloud. In fact, it will become better when we adapt to cloud. I'll explain exactly how, why I mean that it is the security is better. The threat perception and the kind of attacks that we are seeing, ransomwares we are seeing, have increased a lot over the last 5-6 years. In fact, last decade, we have seen to the extent that the President of United States of America had to put a call to the Prime Minister of Russia to stop one particular player who was very aggressive in the ransomware space. Now, while new modes of attacks are coming through, we are seeing the WhatsApp have been breached, we are seeing all applications have been breached, we are held to ransom by putting a gun on our head, by keeping our data unaccessible and inaccessible to the government itself. But at the same time, all these problems were there, irrespective of whether you plan to store your data with in-house, in situ, or you do it on a cloud platform. We are not jack of all trades. We know our strengths. We deal with what is our core competency, but we certainly cannot say that we are expert in every field. So while government is good at governance, adapting technology to governance and all of that, we cannot really say that in the matter of security we are that good. So how cloud helps? These days we see that when the services on the cloud are available, they are available as services, as SaaS. So you don't actually buy space on the cloud when you adapt to cloud technology. You buy a service, and those services are coming bundled with state-of-the-art, current, up-to-date, and very good security systems. So that way, The players who cannot afford to build their own security system should be able to adapt to cloud and become better on security rather than holding that data in your own backyard where the attack is much more easier because it is more porous. In Odisha, I'll give specific example of my state. Since we have a data center and we are building another data center, and we have quite a few data centers coming up in and around Bhubaneswar, we have, as a state, gone in for a state-of-the-art security operation center, what in our parlance we call as a SOC. It's a large project. We are spending initially about 45 crore rupees to establish the SOC. We expect that within the next 6 months, a SOC will be ready. SOC is like an umbrella. In a rainy season, the number of people it can hold under it will be saved from the lashing of the rain. But not to say that some raindrops will always fall on you. So while we do the SOC, we will get all our departments, all our agencies, all government data under the umbrella. Still, we know for a fact that people wearing the black hat are always a step ahead of people wearing the white hat. So we will have to keep our eyes open, constantly look at what is happening in the market and keep ourselves upgraded. And in the security market, there is nothing called as the finish line. So you can create a data center, you can create a cloud, and that's it. You are safe for 10 years. But security is a constant day-to-day activity. So there is a three-pronged strategy to deal with security. You can't provide all security to all citizens yourself. You have to make people aware and educate them as to what they need to do to secure themselves. What is digital? We actually, if you look at it, we are creating our population digitally. So if I am talking about Sabhi Goswami as a person, today he is operating on a digital ID. So we have created a digital ID for Sabhi Goswami. So he can do his banking transaction, he can purchase his things, anything that the physical person can do, he can do. And we do our meetings virtually as well. But imagine if that virtual ID is stolen, what all cannot be done. So when we are looking at that kind of a threat perception, we need to educate and keep people, make people aware of what is happening around. These days, I have seen that some white hackers who showed me the technology that is available, where they can make a call from a particular number that is there in your phone to you without having access to any of the phones. So you know that if somebody can call you and say that your father has met with an accident, please come with 50,000 rupees to the hospital, you'll have no option but to go. But at the same time, you need to know that if you get a call like that and don't know who you are speaking to, after cutting the phone, you just call back the same number. The same number doesn't go to that same person, it goes to the right person. So there are things that we need to keep people educated, we have to make people aware. And as government, we need to invest heavily on the security front. This has not been the prime area of spending for governments, but when things are going digital, I expect that governments, especially forward governments like that of my state in Odisha, how we have invested in roads, how we have invested in electricity, will invest in IT. And part of that investment has to go into the security. So I think I have given you a broadside view of what we are doing here, how cloud computing is important, not only for the business industries, but also for the government, and how security is paramount, but security is really taken care of when you travel and you graduate to cloud computing. I think with this, I will rest and over to you, Saubhagji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was Sri Manoj Mishra, Secretary Electronics and Information Technology Department, Government of Odisha, who talked about various initiatives being undertaken in the state of Odisha, especially said that almost 400 plus schemes have been automated in the Odisha. So imagine kind of data being used. But the problem is that how to store that data and how to process that data. And there comes the role of cloud computing and how it has helped various government departments or various governments, various states and government of India as well to remain agile. And also he shared with us a new information that they're building a security operation center, which is called SOC in Odisha, along with a new data center. And at the end, he said that it's all about that uh, we have to invest in IT infrastructure the way we investing for our physical infrastructure to make roadways, highways, electricity, and we have to also ensure to give more focus on cybersecurity threats as well.